I took the CPA exam 12 times. I say this because I see a lot of LinkedIn posts saying, oh, I passed CPA first time. I passed it in, I don't know, less than 2 months. And that's all fine and dandy, but I'm saying the progress is not a linear path.
I failed again. Oh my gosh. I failed again.
Fun fact, I failed the CPA exam 10 times. I took it 14 times.
Failing this exam at least once happens to 90% of CPA candidates. I mean, look at me, I took audit 4 times.
Oh no, guys. I didn't pass. I got a 73 on audit.
Failed. 64. Wow.
I failed every part of the CPA exam at least one time.
Hey guys, Breezy CPA here, your certified public accountant, back with another video. In this video, I wanted to talk about failing the CPA exam, what it means, why it's part of the journey for the majority of CPA candidates that sit for the CPA exam, and why you shouldn't give up if you do fail the CPA exam at any point during your journey. You may have seen videos online like the clips that I included at the beginning of this video with people being devastated after failing the CPA exam or one of the sections. As somebody who has gone through this myself, I can completely relate to those types of feelings of studying for months on end, spending hundreds of hours reading books and trying to retain material, going through questions, so on and so forth, spending thousands of dollars on courses and materials and exam fees only to fail. It is absolutely gut wrenching. But one of the things that you need to understand when it comes to the CPA exam is that the only time that you fail the CPA exam is when you give up trying to become a CPA. You can take this exam as many times as you want. The only time that you fail is when you give up and you stop trying to pass the CPA exam. So let's take a look at a video here.
All of the CPA exam sections, the pass rates are below 50%. So people that are taking this section for the first time, most people are failing. And I'm sure there's a plethora of reasons for that. But that's one thing to keep in mind. Also, another thing, only about 20% of people who take the CPA exam sections actually pass all 4 of them on their first try. So you are definitely not alone out there. It's a very difficult exam. There is a metric crap ton of material to memorize and learn. But there are some things that you could probably re-examine and do differently to maybe have a better outcome the next time around.
So, as this lady mentions, the pass rates for the CPA exam, if we take a look at this chart here, we can see that the historical pass rates are around 50% for the majority of the exams over the course of the last 20 years here, from 2006 to 2025 now. Um, so the majority of these candidates, half of them, are not going to pass this each one of these exams. So 9 out of 10 people are not going to pass all 4 of the exams on their first try. Most CPA exam sections, again, have a pass rate of historically around 50%, and only about 10 to 20% of candidates pass the CPA exam on their first try. So when you are sitting for the CPA exam, if you're thinking about doing it, if you're in the midst of doing it, if you failed an exam, don't think that this is something abnormal. The majority of people that go through the process of sitting for the CPA exam are going to fail one of the sections at one point or another. It happened to me. It might happen to you. The likelihood is that it probably will. So the idea here is that we want to keep moving and we want to keep trying, and you need to learn from these experiences. So what I wanted to take a look at here is I found an article that I feel encapsulates the CPA exam experience pretty well. The CPA exam failing is part of the journey. Your heart pounds, your breath gets shaky, then your stomach drops. That's what it feels like to learn that you failed the uniform CPA exam, according to James Tom, a recent graduate of a university here, now a staff accountant at a Big Four firm. I was very at first a little angry, and then it hit me. Oh my God, I put 3 to 4 months of my life in this exam just to fail it. It's just so disheartening. Tom told Accounting Today. But then the next thing you think of is how can I have done things differently? With the pervasiveness of social media, especially professional networking platforms like LinkedIn, accountants who pass all four sections of the CPA exam on their first try are sure to let everyone know about it. But the far more common and less discussed experience is to fail a couple of the sections, perhaps several times. So that's the problem with social media, especially a lot of people like to gloat. Um, and some people even lie about these types of things, where they say they'll have passed all four exams in one go. Maybe they haven't passed them. There's no way for you to know that. But some people do pass them on their first try, and they like to share that with the rest of the world, and good for them. But that's not going to be the situation for the majority of the candidates that sit for the CPA exam. Students, professors, and industry professionals suggest that taking a break before dusting off, picking back up where you left off, and using certain studying and test taking strategies to get passing scores on your next try. So, this is what we're going to be discussing here. How do you get over failing one of these sections and understanding that it's something that is normal? It's normal to fail, says Liz, who is a CPA and the director of the CPA pipeline at the AICPA. So here we have the director of the CPA pipeline at the AICPA. I didn't even pass all four on my first try. So it's normal. And I think normalizing that and knowing that it's part of the journey is really important. And I try to emphasize this with my students at breezycpa.com. Some of them have failed multiple sections of the exam using other courses. They come to me and they say, "Look, I'm just disheartened. I don't know if I should become an accountant." And I say, "Hey, look, pull yourself together. We're going to get through this. The only time you fail the CPA exam is when you stop trying to become a CPA. You need to remember that. The CPA exam has different forms over the decades. Now it consists of three core sections: auditing, financial accounting and reporting, taxation and regulation. And since the implementation of the CPA evolution, which happened in January of 2024, now you must choose between three discipline sections: business analysis and reporting, information systems and controls, and tax compliance and planning. Before 2024, we had BEC, and now that's been replaced. So you have three core sections that you have to take, and then you have three disciplinary sections where you get to choose which one of the disciplinary sections you get to take. Candidates need to score 75 on given section to pass. This is an important distinction. They need a 75, not 75%. Exams are a weighted combination of scaled scores from the multiple choice questions and task-based simulations, according to the AICPA. In other words, because of the weights and the way the exam is scored, a candidate could theoretically get 75% of the questions correct and still fail the exam. In the same way, a candidate could theoretically get below 75% and still pass. So what does this mean? This means that, yes, theoretically, you could get less than 75% and still pass the exam, or even a 76% and still fail the exam. But I think a good way to think about this is with the standard letter grades of getting an A in school, a B, or a C in school. So a 75%, you're going to be at a C average in school, right? Now, if you get a C minus on the test, a 71 or a 72%, you're likely to fail. And if you get a C plus on the exam, 77, 78, 79, you're going to likely pass. So this is a weighted score based on how other candidates are doing, as well as the questions that are given to you, the multiple choice and the simulations. But when you're taking this exam, you're thinking about 75% as your passing grade, or a 75. But what I encourage my students to do when taking the CPA exam is not to aim for a 75, to aim for a 99. You want to try to get a perfect score on this exam. Why not? I mean, you're studying so hard for it. Why just try to squeak by with a 75 when you can try to get that perfect score. It's for your own self benefit. And if you end up trying for a 99, shooting for the moon, and you end up getting a 75, then that's great. But if you're going to aim for a 75, more likely than not, you're probably going to get something lower than a 75. Most state boards of accountancy give 30 months for the time that you pass your first exam to pass the other three sections, with few exceptions. The time to pass was recently increased from 18 months. So, as we've seen, the NASBA and the AICPA, due to the shortage of accountants, the shortage of accounting students, and the retiring baby boomers from the profession, they're trying to get more people to become CPAs. So they are passing the new licensing requirements in a lot of states, requiring only 120 credit hour units. Also, they've increased this time frame for when you can pass all four of your exams from what was 18 months when I took the exam to now 30 months. So you have a larger time frame in order to give you more time to pass all your sections. The statistics paint a clear picture. Since 2024, pass rates for the three core sections, odd, far, and reg, hovered around 46, 41, 62%, right around 50% if you average. Meanwhile, pass rates for the three new discipline sections, bar, ISC, TCP, were 41, 63, 76, respectively. Again, this is new with the CPA evolution as of 2024. So we're still waiting to see how these scores are going to pan out over the long term, and the AICPA adjusts the scores accordingly, how they want to, in order to increase the number of people that pass the exam and don't pass the exam. They say that they don't, but that's exactly what they do. However, it'll probably take easily into 2026 before we get a real picture of the volumes and associated pass rates, the director of the AICPA says here. But while the exam is difficult, it's not impossible. We know that thousands of candidates a year pass the CPA exam. It's very doable. What candidates struggle with is probably the breadth of content and adequately preparing for the exam. As we know, the CPA exam contains a vast amount of information, especially, sections like FAR, reg, and odd. FAR especially has a huge amount of information that you need to retain. Even a new Meta, a past chair of the AICPA, failed the exam numerous times. So we had another executive there from the AICPA, now another one here saying that they failed also. I signed up for a CPA review class. I sat for the exam. I didn't pass, Meta said, and his AICPA inaugural speech in May 2022. I had set a goal to achieve my CPA designation, but after a few more unsuccessful attempts, I gave up. I resigned to never achieving those elusive letters. I can relate to this. I took my first CPA exams early on after college. I didn't even really know. My parents were first generation in the US. They didn't even know what a CPA exam was or a CPA. So when I got out of college, I was an accounting major, but I didn't even really know what a CPA was until I started working in accounting and my boss was a CPA. And I started looking into it and I was like, oh, there's an exam that you can take to become this certified public accountant. Let me take this exam. So I got my extra 30 units and, with very little studying because I assumed that I had learned everything I need to know pretty much in college. I just breezed through the books a little bit and assumed I was going to pass the CPA exam. But then I sat for audit and FAR, and I bombed both of them the first time that I took them. And I realized that this exam was a lot harder than I was giving it credit for. I didn't really understand what it meant to be a CPA at the time. And then I took a year or two off because I realized that it was going to take a lot more studying than what I had done initially. And I didn't have that time at that moment. So I took a year or two off and then I got back into it. And the next time around, I did fail, I think, one or two more sections, but I ended up passing it in the end. So Yeah, this is the journey for a lot of people. Look, even people within the AICPA, a lot of people who you may have think had passed it on their first go, they didn't pass it on their first go. There's a multitude of reasons that people don't pass the CPA exams. We all have our own personal lives. People have kids, family members. You get sick. You have your job to worry about. You have responsibilities at home, bills to pay. You know, all sorts of things can get in the way of passing your CPA exam. So don't get disheartened if you're not one of the people who passes on their first go. But sometimes some things changed in me several years later. On my 30th birthday, my wife asked me if I was really satisfied with my career. It gave me pause because, in truth, I wasn't. This was a turning point for me, so I gave the CPA exam one last shot. You know the rest of the story. This guy ended up getting his CPA. And, from the clips that I included in the beginning of this video, the majority of those people, I think all of them ended up getting their CPA. They posted, some clips of maybe them failing or something, but then later on, they show videos of them eventually getting their CPAs. So it's all about putting that work in, getting over the disappointments, figuring out what you did wrong, and getting on to studying again. Training for a marathon. This is a good analogy for the CPA exam. Studying for the exams is like training to run a marathon. It's not a sprint. There's a ton of material. You need to train your brain slowly to be able to sit down and take a bunch of questions that are very difficult for hours. So, this is something that I explain to a lot of my students, that how many tests throughout your education from K through 12 through college required you to sit down for 4 hours and respond to multiple questions one after another within 1 or 2 minutes that you need to allocate to each one of these questions. We don't really have exams that are set up in the way that the CPA exam is, as far as how long you have to maintain your concentration when you're at the exam center and sitting in front of that computer, and the format of these questions. It is going to be draining. It is going to make your brain hurt. I remember coming out of the test center sometimes, and your head is just like, oh my God, what the heck just happened? So the way in this exam is structured, it is meant to test you mentally, just like a marathon is meant to test you physically to your limits. While in school, Tom woke up between 5 and 6 a.m. every morning to study for 2 to 3 hours before his 9 a.m. class. He found that in order to maintain his schedule, he needed to cut out one of his hobbies. These are the sacrifices that you're going to need to make in order to pass the CPA exam. What sucks about studying is you have 24 hours in a day. You usually sleep for 8 hours, you have 16 hours left, and then you have what you normally do during those 16 hours during the day. Now that you have to start studying, you have to somehow take out that time, what you used to do, and put it into studying. So, this can be something that is very challenging and difficult, especially if you have kids, multiple jobs, bills to pay, errands to run, things to do. Um, for me, I used to play a lot of volleyball. I used to play 8 hours a week. Those 8 hours went straight to studying. So this guy had to eliminate one of the hobbies that he really enjoyed doing in order to sacrifice for getting his CPA license. Tom says the two hardest aspects of the exams are the sheer volume of information that it covers and learning how to study. So this is one of the things that I really try and dive into with a lot of students at breezycpa.com, is the way in which you are studying for the exam. It really matters, and it varies from one individual to another. Nobody is exactly the same. Some people are introverts, some people are extroverts, some people are visual learners, some people are auditory learners. You really need to figure out how you retain the information best and what keeps you motivated and studying for the exam. So you can choose to memorize it or you can choose to understand it, he said. I've seen a lot of people choose to memorize the material and do very well, but it's a lot more taxing on them. They're studying a lot harder. Will Mann, a graduate of Robert University, spent 120 and 150 hours studying for the exam. So you're going to be spending hundreds of hours most likely studying for these exams. There are exceptions. There's people who have been in the industry. Maybe they're just natural learners and they don't need to spend as much time studying for the CPA exam. But there's other people who are going to need to spend, double this, 300, 400, 500 hours. He took and passed BEC first, an old section before the implementation of the CPA evolution, and was on a time crunch to pass the remaining 3 sections without losing any credit for BEC before the June 30th deadline. While in school, he passed reg on the first try, passed odd after 3 tries. It took 4 tries on FAR before he passed in June after he graduated and just before the deadline. So this guy failed odd 3 times. He failed FAR 4 times. Again, but what did he do? He persevered. He got through it. He learned from his mistakes, and then he ended up getting his CPA. It's frustrating for sure, but instead of being frustrated and complaining about it, take the energy and try to put it towards how am I going to pass and how am I going to pass quickly. Trying again. Jack, associate professor of accounting at university, says the first step after failing is to take a break. And I am all for this. You're going to go through your stages of grief when it comes to passing the CPA exam. What do we have? We have denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So you're going to go through first you're going to be in denial about the fact that you failed your CPA exam. Then you're going to get angry. You're going to get angry with the AICPA because you ended up getting a 73 or 74. You're going to get angry with yourself. You're going to get angry with your accounting professors for not teaching you what you need to know. The course that you took, they didn't give you all the information that you needed. Your boss, because they ended up giving you that late shift that didn't allow you to get the sleep necessary to sit for your exam and be focused. You're going to blame everybody. So once you get over that anger, then you need to move on and go through the other stages. What are they? Bargaining. You're going to go through your depression. You're going to be sad as hell. You're going to wonder if being a CPA is for you, if whether you even want to be an accountant. And then you end up at acceptance. So we need to get to the acceptance. All right, make sure you go through all those steps. Your anger, your depression, your um, bargaining, and then get to your acceptance and move on and try to pass your next exam. Most students want to immediately jump back in, but normally by the time you take the exam, you've been studying so hard and so long, you're a little burnt out. You can only see the same information so many times. From there, go back and start studying the section you just failed. So this depends, if you really bombed a section, maybe you want to move on to a different section. But if you were close to passing, you got, anything from a 70 to a 74, I would say stick with that section. Just give yourself a little time and then refresh the material that you are learning and see what areas you need to work on for the next time you take that exam. Some candidates asked if they should try another section, then come back to the one that they failed later. But the issue with that is that you're essentially taking all that knowledge you built up to and you're storing it away, hoping that it's going to be there as fresh as it was when you put it away. So yeah, we naturally forget things over time, and you just spent months studying for this exam that you just took, and the more time you take away from studying for that particular exam. And we only have so much capacity when it comes to our brain. So if we start shoveling new information in there, it's going to get jumbled with the other information. And, you're going to end up forgetting things from a different section, and then you're going to have to double back and study for it again. next time around. So if you were close to passing, I do recommend to my students that they retake that section, but you need to refresh the way that you are studying for the exam, and you do need to make some changes, which we'll talk about. Some candidates here, additional advice should sound familiar to any student with good test taking practices. If you don't know the answer to a multiple choice question, flag it and then come back later. Don't spin your wheels. So this is obvious advice that I give to my students when they're taking the CPA exam. If you don't know a question, flag it. Also during studying, you don't want to sit there and drain yourself mentally over something, a particular question, um, because it's not going to allow you to do more questions, wasting all that energy on something that you're struggling with. So flag it and then come back to it later. Analog ways of studying should not be discredited either. While many test prep courses, resources online, and the exam itself is computerized, handwritten notes and flashcards are still some of the best tools for memorization. And I completely agree with this. Everybody learns differently, and some people, you can just watch the videos and skim through the book as you're watching, Breezy CPA videos and skim through the study guide. Some people uh, do better if they highlight, certain questions. Other people, they need to write the material down. So I suggest for other individuals who haven't passed the exam in one way, that they sit down and they actually write down the notes, or rewrite the flashcards and things like that, in order to have it memorized better. Man's advice to test taker was to review everything, not just what you think you know. There are so many nuances to all of these exams, and it's easy to think you know something. Maybe you could answer a multiple choice question on it, but if they give it to you in a simulation, that's a whole different ball game. So you have to apply the knowledge at a much deeper level. And I tell this to all of my students at breezycpa.com. You know, you avoiding a certain topic because you think it's difficult or you don't like it during studying, guess what? The AICPA knows that, and the people making the test know what areas counting students don't like, and they are going to end up giving you questions on those particular areas. So sitting there with the hope strategy that, oh, hopefully they're going to just give me the questions for the subjects that I know really well, that doesn't work. You need to learn all of the different areas, and that includes those sections that you find monotonous and boring. You need to master them in order to make sure that you have them covered on exam day, because they will show up on the exam, and surprise, it's a simulation and now you don't know what to do. So I advise my students to study everything and try to get a 99 on the exam, not just a 75, and hope that, all the questions are going to be in your favor. He also advised going into the exam with a plan. Know when you're going to take each exam, plan on which exam you're going to take first, prioritize based on events that you anticipate, like starting a new job. He also recommends talking to someone who has taken the test before to understand exactly what it will be like walking into the room. Um, they emphasize the importance of adjusting your study plan and habits as necessary, like moving to the library if there are too many distractions at home. So when I passed my CPA exams, I had a roommate, and you have your distractions at home. Sometimes I would go to the library all the time in LA. Shout out to, the Santa Monica Library, the West Hollywood Library, the Downtown Library. Shout out to all the LA libraries. It was me and all of the LA homeless people that were there for long hours from early morning to late at night. I don't know what they were studying for, but I was studying for the CPA exam. But you get free Wi-Fi, you get air conditioning, and you have public restrooms, so and computers available. So hey, if I were a homeless person, I would be there too. Sounds like a good place to be. And if you're studying for the CPA exam, you can always find a nook somewhere in a library to sit down and study for the CPA exam. Being able to make adjustments proactively instead of trying to do the same thing that led you down an undesirable path is going to be the key to not only your exam success, but success in life. Yes, absolutely. So, just like anything, not, the only way you're going to feel this sense of accomplishment if something comes easy to you, just like if somebody hands you free money. You don't appreciate the value of that money. Like when your parents just gave you $20 when you were a kid, you didn't understand the value of that $20. But when you had to go mow a lawn for 1 or 2 hours to get $20 and you were sweating in the heat, and then that person handed you a $20 bill, you were hanging on to that $20 bill because you were like, man, I really worked for this thing. So it's the same thing with the CPA exam. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of effort, but at the end of the journey, it's going to be worth it and that much more valuable to you as an individual if you put in that effort. So, um, being able to make the adjustments will lead you down. She also noted not every single review course provider or each study resource is a one size fits all. And this is definitely the case. Everybody studies differently. We all had our professors and teachers in school. Some of the teachers we got along with and we really engaged with them, and they were able to convey the material in a way that we wanted to go to their class and we really absorbed everything that they were telling us. Whereas some instructors, we didn't really feel that way about them. And obviously, you're not going to learn the same way from those types of people. So, if you took a particular CPA review course and you saw that you were not getting the results that you wanted from that course, you end up failing 1 or 2 exams. Maybe that course isn't for you. Maybe you should try a different type of course. And I recommend this to all my students. And I have a lot of people that come to me because Breezy CPA is a different type of CPA review course, and the way that we teach our lectures is different from, a Becker or a Wiley or a UWorld. And some people say, wow, like I never absorbed the material like I do through the Breezy CPA lectures or study guides or cram course or whatever. So you really need to find the resource that works for you. And if you end up failing 1 or 2 exams, refresh the material. And if you've sat through tons of hours of Becker lectures, for example, and now all of a sudden you failed that exam, and do you really feel like sitting through it again and going through all those same questions? Maybe now you've memorized some of the questions and you already know the responses to them, so you're kind of tricking yourself by saying, oh, I know the material, but you only know it because you already answered those questions a couple of times. So it's good to refresh your study materials if you see that you aren't having success in one particular section, for example. Raleigh, a staff accountant at Fractional CFO, utilized more unorthodox approaches to pass the CPA exam. Um, Marrero made posts on Reddit. Reddit is obviously a great resource to get information from students, clarifying questions, joining study groups. He also stressed the importance of giving yourself enough time. No one's passed the exam and said, I could have done it in less time or I had too much time. No, it's always you take it and then you say, I should have dedicated more time to this. You're going to pass it sooner or later, he concluded. Uh, Beckhalter echoed this sentiment. The only time that you actually fail is when you quit. Failing is part of the journey. You're not failing until you actually stop testing. And this is absolutely what I try and convey to my students. Nobody cares how many times you took the CPA exam. Nobody's going to ask you that. I've never been asked that in an interview process. Uh, I may have been asked by students, obviously, as a CPA instructor, but never in an interview process. Coworkers, I don't think anyone's asked me, maybe one or two, but nobody cares. Okay, the idea here is you want to get the certificate, and however many times it's going to take you, that's how many times it's going to take you. You don't need to share your failures with the world. I advocate that people confide in, one or two close people in their lives. Some people, towards the end, I wasn't even telling people that I was taking the CPA exam because I didn't want to end up failing an exam and then have people asking me, "Oh, how did you do?" And then you end up having to tell 20 people that, "Oh, I failed." And then they start giving you bad advice because they don't even know what the CPA is. They've never taken an exam like the CPA, and they say, "Oh, maybe you should eat bananas." And it's like, dude, you don't even know what you're talking about. So, uh, for everybody it's different. Some people like to share more with others, but um, what I suggest to my students is pick one or two people close in your life who can understand the difficulty of what you are trying to accomplish. This isn't like going and taking your driving exam at the DMV. Okay, it's like, oh, well, why did you fail your driving exam? No, this is a hardcore exam that takes months of your life to study for, that is very mentally, emotionally draining on you, and financially. So it's very difficult for people who haven't gone through these types of exams or rigors in their lives to relate to what you are trying to accomplish. So, you know, um, choose the people that you talk about the CPA exam with wisely, because, it can end up getting frustrating if they give you bad advice, or they just keep asking you what happened. And my parents didn't even know what the CPA was, so when I failed an exam, they was like, "What are you doing?" And so, yeah, just be careful with that when it comes to telling people about the CPA exam. If you are interested in learning more about the CPA exam, sitting for the CPA exam, I know that, reading this article here may seem daunting, and it definitely is. But at the end of the road, becoming a CPA is completely worth it. You are going to have an invaluable experience and title, and feel a sense of accomplishment once you have obtained those three letters of certified public accountant. So if you're interested in learning more about accounting, studying for the CPA exam, make sure to check us out at breezycpa.com. The link is in the description box below. We offer all the courses to help you pass the CPA exam as quickly, cheaply, and painlessly as possible. So use promo code Breezy20 to get 20% off your order and memberships at checkout. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you to all the new subscribers. Thank you to all the students at breezycpa.com. I wish you all the best of luck in studying for your exams and passing your CPA exams on your CPA exam journey. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.
Yes, passed. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
You guys, I passed. I passed. Oh my gosh, I passed. I passed. Okay, I'll be honest with you. I really did not want to fail and have to do all that again. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it.